Stress is a bit of a bum, isn't it? Something that most parents and adults in their 30s, 40s plus will experience at some point in their life, and for most, probably quite often regularly, even if it's just tiny amounts of stress. And actually, as we know, tiny amounts of stress is no bad thing. It's actually quite good for the adaptation of the mind and the body. However, when stress gets to the point where your brain is not working as efficiently as mine hasn't been over the last few days, you have to do something about it. And the funny thing is, with stress, is that you don't know that you're experiencing it when you are. It's often others that will point it out before you know that you're experiencing it. And frustratingly, when those others do point out that you might be stressed, your immediate reaction is quite often, no, don't be silly, I feel really good. Because right now I know that I feel really good. But I think a key thing to stress, like any other mind-based ailment, is that first thing is recognition. So recognizing it and recognizing the symptoms. And for me, it took me a few days to realize it, but I could feel it in a number of different aspects of my life. The first one is, oddly, when I experience some element of stress, my tongue feels fatter. So I can feel it there, strange as it may seem. Also, probably more obvious and something that I would imagine most others experience is that I know that I'm not reacting as well as I could to others. Not to any significant extent, but let's say, for example, I'm being asked to do something that I don't want to do. My reaction might not be as positive as it could be when I'm in a really good state. Once you've recognized it, what do? You may or may not want to try these, but they work for me, so I would imagine they work for you. You know, of course, the routine that I stick to, but sometimes even that routine isn't enough. But I think one of the interesting things is that when you do experience some form of stress and you have a pretty good routine that's based on keeping your mind in the right space, what I do is I first look at that routine. Is there anything that I've cut out or I'm not doing as much? And I realized a few days ago that whilst I was meditating, it wasn't meditating enough. And quite often I would meditate more like a kind of a forced meditation where I know that in my mind I'm thinking about other things that I've got to do. So it's almost as if, oh yeah, I've got my routine, I'll do my routine, I'm doing 10 minutes of meditation, that should be enough. All the while, when I'm supposedly meditating, in the back of my mind, there are kind of thoughts that keep entering my brain about stuff that I need to do, which of course is not the level of meditation that I need to keep your mind, or to keep my mind at bay from feeling stressed. So that was one of the first things I looked at, and as of yesterday, I am meditating more. Another trick that I use is that when you look at areas of mindfulness, do as the Japanese do, make the banal interesting. You're making supper for the family, you're making supper for your children. And rather than focusing on other things that you need to do, bring yourself in the moment by 100% focusing on each element of making that supper. So kind of mindful cooking, you might call it. So let's say you've got a pepper on the chopping board and you're chopping it up. And quite often, most of us, when we're chopping food, we're so good at doing this that it's our subconscious that kicks in and just allows us to chop the food whilst thinking about something else. It's all very clever, isn't it? Now, prevent the subconscious from kicking in and start focusing on every part of chopping that vegetable. So focus on the knife, slow down the process, even become semi-obsessive about it, and look at trying to get the lengths and size of your vegetable in its chopped down form to be uniform with the others. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. What you're doing is you're focusing entirely on that one task at hand. As I've said before, this is something the Japanese have done for ages. They'll turn washing clothes into an art form. And I'm not generalizing that all Japanese do this, but the more spiritual types do and have been doing it for centuries. perfect example of being in the moment and how that can help calm the mind and help to eradicate stress. I attended a couple of years ago a spoon carving class, and it reminded me actually I must do another one, because for a good 8-9 hours, I would say, we took a half a log and turned it into something that resembled a spoon at the end of it. The point being that it wasn't really the result of what you created at the end, because I'd have to say mine was about as unspoon-like as you can possibly get a spoon to be, but the process itself was the key to calming the mind. And now actually this class wasn't designed as a way of calming the mind. It wasn't a mindful spoon carving class. What it was just a simple spoon carving class, introducing people to methods and tools used to working wood. And this really proves for me how being present, being in the moment, focusing 100% on one task can help to calm the mind, eradicate any negative thinking. Because once we'd all learnt some of the techniques used for a good number of hours, fueled by strong coffee and nice vegetarian food, the whole class were quiet, they were silent, and all you could hear was the carving of wood, the chopping of wood. And at the end of it, my mind and brain actually felt a little bit shattered, because we'd put 100% focus on this one task at hand for a good 8-9 hours. But it was an incredible experience, because I remember halfway through thinking, all I'm focused on is where my blade is going into this piece of wood, nothing else. There was no other thought there. And it's just a really good example that things like that, activities, tasks like that, where you've got your mind totally zoned in, is a brilliant way of calming the mind, of helping to eradicate stress, anxiety, etc. You might like to try it.